We the people of the state of Jefferson, ever mindful of the rights we hold most dear, life, liberty, and property, are compelled to establish this, our new state, for the preservation of these natural inalienable rights. Our mandate for the protection of life, liberty, and property gives urgent voice to our demand for representation that reflects our needs, our history, our culture, and our moral impervitude. Time has come for 51. This is Terry Raposa.
And Win Carpenter. You're listening to Jefferson State of Mind podcast.
Hello, fellow Jeffersonians. Terry Raposa, Win Carpenter, and Will Ostan. And we are here to talk about liberty. We're here to talk about how we can help an organization that helps probably the group of people we should have the most gratitude for, and that's our servicemen, and more importantly, our wounded servicemen who come back. Anyway, well, we're gonna preface this off. We want to do that video right off the get-go.
Great.
And I'll tell you right now that Wynn and I are envious that you got to sit down with her right now. Just get it out of the way. And so as soon as you're ready, my friend, go ahead and roll that for us.
A decorated veteran is sharing his story. Fighting a bureaucracy, he says, is actually hurting our wounded warriors. He's also a skilled attorney who worries that other soldiers without the same background won't be able to fight like he has for years. He's actually launched an organization he hopes will close this gap so that service members who become injured or ill but still want to find ways to serve on active duty will be able to do so. Retired Army Major General Ostan joins us live. Great to have you with us, sir.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
Okay, so you obviously have a personal situation here. You have deployed, you've served overseas, you became ill at some point, but you didn't want to leave the service. But at some point, you reached a crossroads where you weren't able to stay in. How does this work, and where's this gap?
Yeah, so it's very simple. It's in 2018, there was a new organization that came online called Defense Health Agency. Wounded warriors used to be managed by the respective service branches, but then in 2018, DHA took it over. Amazingly, they don't think they own the problem anymore.
Okay, so it's a bureaucratic problem then for people like you who are like, I want to get well and stay. I want to continue serving. But if there's a medical assessment that doesn't go your way, it's tough to then appeal it and find a way to be able to stay in.
That's exactly right, because DHA doesn't think they own it. When you try and appeal it up their chain of responsibility, they say we can't do anything for you. So the Army as an institution was pointing the finger at DHA. Wow. DHA was pointing the finger at the Army. It created a gap that wounded warriors have been falling through since last year with no reprieve.
And as we said, and I don't know if did I promote you to a major general?
You certainly did.
General, sorry.
And so all of my friends are going to have to salute me when I leave tonight.
Okay, all right. I think, listen, you've earned it. I know a lot about your background. You are a decorated veteran and somebody who decided later to serve, to join, because you were so moved by other people and their sacrifices. And you've talked about being an American who felt you were very blessed and you felt like you wanted to join the service and do this. You graduated Pepperdine Law School. You're a great attorney. So you and I have talked about this, and you said you're worried that there are other younger soldiers and troops and people who won't know how to fight this bureaucratic battle. So even though it's over for you, you've now launched an organization that you hope will help other people who become injured but want to stay in or ill.
That's exactly right, Shannon, because me as a JAG major and a field grade officer, I also have my Juris Doctorate. If they did this to me, I also have some time in a special operations unit. If they did this to me, what are they doing to the 19-year-old private? He's got no hope. So what we're trying to do and working with Congress is going to be a bipartisan bill. We're calling it the Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights. And it's literally very simple. It's just creating a pathway for the wounded warriors to cross over the gap that currently exists. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be Democrats, Republicans. It's going to be maybe one of the few bipartisan issues that is around today.
Well, I mean, veterans are one thing that unite all of us, it seems, across political parties or persuasions or ideologies. What is your plan for getting this across the finish line? Because the bureaucracy of any government entity can be overwhelming. You found that out firsthand.
Absolutely. So we have a full plan on arcofjusticeusa.org. It includes 5 talking points. And honestly, endurance, I mean, the Army values have served me well. And I'm just going to keep knocking on the door of the senators and congressmen, and we're hoping to create this to go viral on social media so that the American public knows about the problem, so that therefore we can fix it.
Yeah, because I think the more that I heard about this problem and the more hopefully our viewers hear about this, they're going to want to support people like you who, and we're not saying that the defense agencies are a problem, because it seems like there's a disconnect somewhere. I mean, everybody wants to help wounded warriors. And I know that you found out about stories of other people who were in service who were caught in the same loophole that you were as well.
Yes, ma'am. So there's actually, I believe that there are hundreds out there, and some of them don't even know what they've been done, especially what I experienced at Fort Belvoir. I think it's a perfect storm with deploy or get out policy, because now we are trying to reduce the numbers. We're also trying to get ready for a near peer war with Russia and China, which is wise, but it doesn't mean that we should weaponize deploy or get out and kick wounded warriors to the curb without giving them the time to get healthy. And that's what's happening right now.
We all want to see them get fair treatment, especially because of the service. Thank you for your service and all the other folks who are out there caught in the same situation. Retired Army Major Will Ostan, we wish you all the best of luck. Please keep us updated.
Thank you, Shannon. I will.
All right. Now, she talks fast. She talks
Yeah,
fast.
she sure does.
She does. That was great.
Get a lot of information out there. That was very well done.
Now, do you want to add to that and a little bit more to that?
Yeah. So first, I mean, I talked about it a little bit on last week's podcast, but Shannon has just been a huge friend to us, and she's allowed me to do 2 of her other Living the Bream national podcasts. And we're in touch, personally pretty regularly. And she's just said, hey, listen, I'm with you guys like to the end for mission completion. So I just really want to thank her from the bottom of my heart. And on that note, we're a little bit different than the other 55,000 nonprofits that are out there serving veterans and the military community, in that I'm doing this, guys, as what I call a campaign plan. So once the Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights is passed, I'm going to either shut down Arc of Justice completely and go do something else in life, or I'm going to repurpose it for like another mission. But I don't want to just like continue 5-10 years from now, once the purpose of our nonprofit has, we've been mission complete, we've been a success. I don't want the nonprofit to get bloated and we've outlived our purpose. Some nonprofits unfortunately do that. So I'm not doing this for, financial security or, because I need a job. I'm doing this to complete the mission and go away. And I think, if people do get involved with us, people really respond well to that. The American citizen does, because everybody wants to be a part of something that completes a mission, a tangible thing to change people's lives. So there's 3 ways that we're asking people to get involved. So I took my 5-point plan and I made it down to 3 now, because that was on Veterans Day 2019. So 2.5 years ago that we launched. And now I'm asking people, hey, if you know anybody, we're at the point now, I don't really need any more Pentagon contacts. We're above that level now. We really need people on the Hill, Capitol Hill. So, contact your congressman, contact your senator, call them, email them. And it's as simple as this. Just say, we support House Resolution 6043, the Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights. We want you to support it. They actually, if there's a groundswell, with a congressman or senator, actually, we want both. So find out, whoever your congressman is federally and whoever your 2 senators are from your state, and please just contact them. It actually doesn't take much time to do that. And if enough people do, they actually listen to they don't always do what the constituents want, but they will at least it'll get on their radar and something may come of that. So that's the first thing is contact them. The second thing is, please follow us on social media. So I mainly do Instagram and Facebook. I just don't have time to do the Twitter universe, but our handle is at Arc of Justice USA.
Do we have something we can show on all of that? Dustin, do we have something we can show on that? To where we can put it up on the screen while Will's talking?
So if you go to Instagram, brother, like the at Arc of Justice USA, if you can put that up there, I've got a lot of stuff on there. So that's the website, which is arcofjusticeusa.org. You'd probably need to sign into an Instagram account, but yeah, whoever has Instagram, it's just Arc of Justice USA. So we're looking for people, and there's my beautiful wife there. She just did a 10-minute video on what it means to be a caregiver. That's amazing for people to watch.
Yeah, you married up, buddy.
I told you I did last week.
I think everybody in this room married up.
No doubt.
Definitely.
So we're looking for people to become, here we go, social media ambassadors. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time on social media. I actually never did social media until I became founder and president of Arc of Justice. I was like trying to stay in the dark with special ops, off of the internet. But I regularly provide good updates, and I take time to try and write intelligently. So it's not just some fancy pictures. Do video updates. So there's me and Max Cleland. Just hold on one second. In that left box, that's me and him meeting in his home that I talked about last week. And so then he wrote the letter after that. So that guy is amazing, a war hero who's gone on to be in heaven now. But
Wow.
And then if you go to the right there, brother, the Justin slide. So this is one of my clients. So this is, he's got 11 children. He's a sergeant first class. He was enrolled improperly in the medical separation process, literally mere months away from a 20-year vesting pension. They're supposed to give him a back surgery. His command refused.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
It's like these stories,
That's crazy.
guys. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about some of these. We'll talk about two stories. So I'm so glad we did this because it kind of triggered my mind on this one. And I'm actually still working this case right now. So to make it short, and you're so gracious with giving me time, but I want to make sure we don't lose your, the audience attention. And so, because some of these stories I could go on for 2 hours, but this guy he hurt his back in line of duty. He was supposed to get a surgery. The initial command, he was at Fort Bragg, approved it, but then a new command took over, and they were like, "Nope, we're not going to give it to you." So he's an Army reservist, kind of fell off their radar.
Man.
And so he's literally now, guys, so he never got the surgery, all right? So he just his back continues to deteriorate. So then he's literally a few months away from like the good points or good months to get to 20. And they're like, "We're going to kick you out." So he's like, I don't know what a sergeant first class would make lifetime pension. Let's just say, I might be wrong, but it's around $60,000 a year for lifetime.
Okay.
He's got 11 kids.
Yeah.
So now he's probably going to get like 90% VA disability like I do, and he's going to have $20,000 a year.
Oh,
for the
you
rest
got
of
to be
his life.
kidding me.
And when you hit 20, it actually like adds on top of, so it's not like 60 minus 20, it's 60 plus 20. And so really he's losing like an $80,000 a year pension.
Oh my gosh.
So what I've done for him is like I've agitated like his command unit, like the DHA, Defense Health Agency channels, and Senator Tom Tillis from the great state of North Carolina is handling his congressional. And this, guys, it's like, this is the infuriating part of my job, which fills me with righteous fury, because the senator staff will do the right thing. Will do what's called an interrogatory, a series of questions to the command. They literally will not answer the questions. They will just respond with like a page of gobbledygook or like ad hominem attacks against my client. And listen, there's no perfect client, but like what has been done to him is like it's plainly wrong. So typically a congressional, there's only kind of like one bite at the apple. So you send one line of questions, the command responds, and the command's like, block, check, move on. So I've been fighting for him for over a year with Tillis's office. And so now we are on our fourth interrogatory. And like what that does is it tells the command, we are not going away.
Yeah.
And like
ain't quitting.
we're not quitting. And that's like the biggest thing that we've got going for Arc of Justice is just like I'm tenacious. And one of my commanders in like my officer evaluation report said, Will is a bulldog who never says quit. And so like I don't need to be the best looking guy in the room. I don't need to be the smartest guy in the room, but like we just never quit. And so we're hoping that Justin is one of our good news stories. All right. So that's at like the tail end of the spectrum. Keep scrolling down, brother. Let's see if we can get a picture of Savannah Elms. It's pretty far down. Well, while he's looking for it, so it's an Air Force captain, female, if you come across her. So Savannah Elms was 4 years into her service. All right, Air Force captain, married to an Army Green Beret, and she had a medical issue come up, which had been resolved. Okay, but then a Defense Health Agency bureaucrat came online, and again, with what I talked about last week, they're looking for people to kick out. So her unit came up for deployment. Again, a medical issue that came up was resolved, but they're like scouring through medical records looking for people because it's a numbers game. So they tried to kick her out. So she contacted us. We worked with Congressman Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida.
Yep.
We worked with his office, and that's actually one of our few, unfortunately, like great news stories. Because most of my clients, like, I can't win because of this gap.
But she did, yes.
But she won. We won her case. She was pulled out. They wrote the military commanders wrote a mea culpa to the congressman. She is still serving honorably on active duty. So it's not just about getting people like a lifetime pension and helping them become more productive veterans. It's also about keeping the best and the brightest on active duty.
Yeah, that's a great story. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite stories, exactly, Terry, because this is like such a waste of taxpayer dollars. Like, I think it costs, I don't know if this is accurate, but I have read that it costs like $1 million per soldier to like train them every year. Like, that's how much it costs the taxpayer. It's a lot of money.
Right.
So then you get, and by the way, Savannah was a #1 graduate from the Citadel Military Academy in South Carolina. So she's like this, and she was like a military athlete too. So she's like this.
And she's a short little thing. Isn't she?
Yeah. She's very, very, very
tiny.
very petite. Yeah,
very petite. Yeah.
Petite and just brilliant future leader again. So I called them like they're like a royal couple in the military because, you know, she's married to a Green Beret. She's an Air Force Special Ops. And I'm like, Defense Health Agency wants to like kick out like the best and the brightest that we have, especially, you know, I referred to it in Shannon Bream 2019. You know, I wasn't trying to be a prophet, but get ready for a near peer war with China and Russia. And here we go, possibly, you know, like as we're sitting here today. And it's like, how can we decimate the best and the brightest from, you know, from our military?
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
I know.
So,
doesn't that piss you off?
It does.
We can say stuff like that.
Well, I love it because normally I don't get this amped up. You know, I have to like, you know,
it's okay.
So,
man.
but
We're all getting amped up here. That's why we're pissed.
Yeah. So, that's what Arc of Justice does. And the last thing. So I'll go back on track. So the 3 things we need: connections, contact your congressman and senator, social media ambassador. That's how we got onto Arc of Justice USA on Instagram. And then the last thing is, you know, and I used to like be very timid about asking for, you know, money.
Gotta do it, brother.
I'm like, oh man, I don't want to ask for people's hard-earned money. But I mean, we have K Street lobbyists have contacted me, 30-year veterans on the Hill, you know, and they said, you guys have, as a small nonprofit, the best ROI, return on investment, of anyone I've ever seen, because we've been in existence, you know, since Veterans Day 2019, so less than 3 years. We've already passed a piece of legislation in HR 6466 2020. And then we're on the verge of passing landmark legislation with this Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights. There are organizations that take a decade to pass one piece of legislation. So we're on the verge of passing 2 in less than 3 years, and we're about to go away. So I just need funding to like help us. We're on the 1 yard line, I say, to use a football analogy, but sometimes those last 3 feet can be the most perilous. So I just need funding. I would like to hire some more people, like some people in, you know, publicity. There's a possibility, and I'm not announcing this yet because it's not like a sure thing, but there is a possibility that Netflix is going to do an Arc of Justice documentary, and we would become a Netflix original. So I've got a buddy of mine who's a very successful filmographer. I just spoke in Kansas City last week at a gathering of leaders, and so he was inspired, and he was like, hey, I'm doing a bunch of pitches to Netflix. Would it help you if you became? And I'm like,
hello.
Yeah. So, you know, of course, Netflix could say no, and if they do, then this guy's still going to help me, but we would need to raise, I don't even know how much documentaries cost, but it's in the hundreds of thousands. It's in the hundreds of thousands. It's very expensive to do filming. But I want to do everything I can to do, at this point, gentlemen, to do a public shame campaign against the people who are fighting us. And so who's fighting us? So we have, as I talked about on the podcast last week, we have all of the service branches supporting us. So Secretary of the Army, Navy, Commandant of the Marine Corps, I have a signed document. They're all to the SecDef. We support them. But then you have the Defense Health Agency leaders, and their report up a separate line to SecDef. And of course, they don't support us because they know they don't want to lose control.
Right.
They're worried that they're going to lose their $50 billion budget, you know, and I've made it very simple. I haven't touched any budgetary strings in the document. I'm like, you guys can fight over that stuff outside of my piece of legislation. I want control back over the wounded warriors to the military branches. But they're fighting it. So unfortunately, the Office of Secretary of Defense gave an official, what's called an informal position paper on the Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights, and said they don't support. So that's not that's not like dispositive. That means that we won't get it, but that's not good. All right. And then, so it's amazing like how Capitol Hill actually works, guys.
Yeah.
So let me just give your listeners like a quick 2-minute primer. So it's actually not the senators and congressmen who run the show. It's actually the staffers. And most of these staffers are like in their 20s and young 30s, and they're like Ivy League grads. They're paid less than $40,000 a year to work 70 hours a week. And so it's whatever, like kind of the shiny object syndrome that comes up. They're overworked, understaffed. And then, so you know, just as an example, I am now on, and this has been one of our huge allies, Brian Mass. I'm now on my 6th military legislative aid in Brian Mass' office because there's such high turnover.
Yes.
Wow.
So then you got a new young person come in. You got to re-explain everything, you know. So that's part of the challenge of getting legislation. But this is what I didn't know is that there's what's called professional staff members on the House Armed Services Committee and Senate Armed Services Committee. So they're not tied to a member. They're basically lifetime bureaucrats who are like SES or GS, you know, employees, and they're there forever. So they outlive the people.
And they're not accountable.
They're not accountable. That's exactly right, Terry. They're full, and I'm not trying to paint them all. I'm sure there's like some good, great Americans there, but the ones that I'm dealing with who created, it was their idea to create Defense Health Agency. They are full of hubris. Like they're full of pride. They are bad actors, and they do not want this Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights because it's like a Seinfeld episode. DHA is their baby, and I'm saying your baby's ugly.
Yeah.
And so they're like, and they have actually nothing to lose except their pride, because they're not going to lose their jobs if the Wounded Warrior Bill of Rights is passed. They're going to lose nothing. They're going to continue to go on, but they've dug in their heels out of pride and hubris, and they're not supporting it. So where does the documentary come in? And this is where, like, you know, K Street lobbyists and all these other people that I'm like, how do I get across the finish line, guys? You're the experts. And they're like, you need to do a public shame campaign.
Exactly.
Like you need
That's
to,
exactly right.
They're like, you've done everything. Your
Yes.
ROI is great. You have landmark legislation, you know, Shannon Bream, you know, all this stuff. They're like, you've done everything humanly possible. They know it's right, but they won't do it. So a public shame campaign. So, so if like there is, you know, and listen, everything helps. The $10 donation that I get from like the 85-year-old grandma.
501c3.
We are an official 501c3.
So it's tax deductible.
Tax deductible. We have our IRS letter of certification. I hired. So listen, let me say this real quick. Everything that I've done, I knew that I'm taking on like one of the most powerful bureaucracies in the world in the Department of Defense, you know, and so I'm like, I have to have everything perfectly done. So I hired a company who's like, basically they start nonprofits professionally. I'm like, I want everything like line upon line, you know, every I dotted, T crossed. So we actually got our IRS letter of certification like pretty quickly. So we're totally legit, you know, and every dollar is well managed. So the $10 donation from the grandma who's like 85, and she's like, you know, my grandson, you know, fought in Iraq. Like, here's all I can give. I love that. And we need that. And I appreciate that. And we also need, like, there may be some wealthy person out there with a foundation, and they actually need to find 501c3s to give money to, you know, for their tax write-off. So they're looking for worthy organizations, and we are one. So
I think a campaign of shame, that really makes sense, because here's the thing. I mean, you know, going to the people, you know, and that's something that Trump did, actually. He went to the people. He didn't really care about his compadres. He cared more about going to the people and getting public opinion. Public opinion for what we're talking about here could be
huge.
It could be amazing. And so, and that's the beauty of this. So I'm hoping that I want to have you back on again. And also, you can call on. We do a radio program once a week, and it's podcasted and it's archived, and we send it out worldwide. And I'd like to have you on, because what we need to do is, and you can call in. So you can be sitting there with your coffee and your kids and call in.
Great.
I like those kind the best. So, but anyway, the thing is that you've got the idea of reaching out to the people. I mean, for the people who've given their most, given their all, and the people that should be more respected, protected,
and helped
than anybody.
Yeah.
So you're sort of going into the next phase of what you want to do. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think we already are. But
Sure.
Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, so it's fundraising has been a challenge for us. So I decided. And by the way, on that note, so I've represented 52 clients, since launching. I do all of them pro bono because I never want to charge these guys a single dime because I know the hell that I went through for those 20 months. And I'm like, even if I can't get them a win, so to speak, I want them to know that they're loved and they're cared for and they're not paying me a dime, for their service. Right. So that's why we rely so much on donations because yeah, I'm an attorney. I could be charging them attorney rates, but I just will not. It's a conscience issue for me. And some of these guys some of my clients have contemplated suicide. They've called me and they're just like, "Sir, you're the only person fighting for me. I love you." I mean, it's like all these things that like sometimes as men it's hard to say. But I'm like, told my wife, I'm like, this is what makes it worth it. Like this kind of phone call,
Right.
So because it's been, listen, I launched Arc of Justice, I think 3 months before the pandemic hit. So it's like,
great timing,
great
man.
timing. So I started a for-profit like leadership consulting company, advocacy company, and we don't have a website up or anything like that yet. But we've helped your friends here, the Red, White, and Blueprint LLC, do their stuff out here. And so the company, and I'll have to explain this because people are going to be like, "What did you name it?" That's really hard to understand. So it's called Dianikes Action Group, and here's why. All right. So the Greek historian Herodotus wrote about the Spartan 300 stand against the 2 million man Totalian army from Persia. And there is a story, which, I don't think it's apocryphal because it's in Herodotus's writings. So there were so many Persian archers that the Spartan scouts came back to the 300 and said, basically, you have to retreat because there's so many arrows that they're going to block out the sun. And so Dianikes said to him, "Good, then we'll fight in the shade." And I just love that.
That's great. Yeah.
And it, there's so much in there with like the warrior ethos, the overcoming obstacles, taking on the giants. And so of course, the 300 lost their lives that day, but because of their sacrifice, the other, survivors went back to Athens and Greece, and the Peloponnesians, all united to defend the flame of liberty and defeat this totalitarian army. So I was like, okay, so what I'm doing with Arc of Justice, this is part of my calling in life, is to stand up against bullies and bureaucrats, who are beating down on the citizenry. And so It's too long to go into, but one story led to another. So, I got in contact with Jeremy from Red, White, and Blueprint. He contacted me, told me what was going on here with the recall.
Unbelievable.
And so they're my first client for Dianikes Action Group, and wrote them a letter, to the California Fair Political Practices Commission.
Yes.
And, I don't know what ended up happening with that. They said they were going to investigate it, but, and I've been in touch with some of the FPPC attorneys, but they haven't ended up doing anything. And so I know I've been successful for RWB in just feeling like, okay, we've got somebody fighting for us, in this arena, and we can't be bullied and intimidated. And I've talked with Alyssa McEwen on the phone from Recall Shasta. And, just the ability to say, listen, I'm in your corner and I will fight for you. And again, I'm not the smartest guy, but with a special ops background and a tier 1 attorney, I'm like, I will use my skill set to the best of my ability to make sure your mission complete.
And you have stones of iron.
This is the best podcast I've ever been on.
So, I think that, and
I will definitely come back on.
yeah.
My wife may not listen to this one anymore, but my buddies will. I'll be
They
sending
will.
it to all my
You
military
bet. Yeah.
buddies.
There you go.
I'll be
They
like,
will.
listen at minute this.
Yeah, I think that it just, with the Red, White, and Blueprint, the media has just been atrocious. The different things that have gone in there and all the folks, it's just been so biased and so wrong.
It has been terrible.
And
Well, we're experiencing locally what's been going on nationally.
Yeah.
Truly,
it's a microcosm.
it's a microcosm of what's going on. And so that's why we're fighting back. And like you said, you've got to fight. Absolutely have to fight. And that's what we've been doing here.
Yep.
Well, the way we're going to win this back is we fight locally.
Yep, absolutely.
We fight state, then we fight federal. So it's lions and tigers and bears.
Right.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
and we really have to be looking at it that way. But see, where you're going right here touches all those things. See, that's the beauty of this. That this is really something where I think a lot of us really want to help our wounded warriors, and now we have an opportunity to do it. I think this is amazing. And anybody that listens to this, if you have a media contact, get this gentleman on.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
We need to do that. Is there some way that do we have anything, Dustin? Do we have anything that shows contact for Will?
So if they go onto the website arcofjusticeusa.org, there is a contact button they can hit, and I will read everything.
Okay.
So it really is. It is still my wife and I. It may take me a little while to get back to people just because we don't have a staff, and we have so many balls in the air, so to speak. But I read everything that comes in through the website on the contact button. So and I'll get back to people eventually.
That's great.
So it's Arc of Justice.
arcofjusticeusa.org. ARCOF, the word justiceusa.org.
.org. Okay.
Yep.
Well, we've been here with Will Ostan, and he's a veteran, served our country,
A patriot.
Absolutely.
Patriot all the way through.
and a brother.
Yes.
And for will ever be known as Stones of Iron. With that, time has come.
For 51.
Let's get it done.
Amen.
Right on. Hey, CA, come out and play. Have you seen the bill we all have to pay? It's not our bill. We had no say. You don't serve us, you serve LA. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind.